Hi everyone, I'm Karan and welcome to Karan's Gyan. The stock on focus for today is Indiabulls Housing Finance, and it seems that Indiabulls Housing Finance has gotten a life jacket. A news broke out about 2 hours ago. Uh, it broke out like late in the night around 11 p.m. on 3rd July. So the news was Indiabulls Housing Finance has pledged a part of its real estate loans to the global stressed assets investor. So there is this investor called Oaktree Capital. Now this investor is a unique investor. We call him global stressed assets investor. So what this investor does is it has a very unique investment strategy. It will invest in distressed assets. It will invest in assets that are put on sale below its expected market value simply because its parent company or the company that is putting that asset on sale, it is under fire. It either has to raise funds as soon as possible or is under bankruptcy. So this is what Oaktree Capital does. It finds out its scars for, it's like a vulture. It scars for dead meat, meat that is rotting, and it would eat that meat. It invests in stressed assets. It won't go after assets that are not under stress, that are not under duress. It'll invest in stressed assets because it gets higher yield and it gets high returns. And this is not a bad strategy, this is a very good strategy. I'll explain you Oaktree's strategy in this news itself. So let's go ahead talk about the news. Indiabulls Housing Finance has raised about 2,200 crores from Oaktree Capital by pledging a part of its real estate loans to the stressed assets investor. So this transaction, like I said, is expected to breathe life into Indiabulls Housing Finance, which has been looking for investors for quite some time. These funds would be used to meet payment obligations. So what do I mean by payment obligations? So what Indiabulls Housing does is, it is basically a finance company. So it will raise money from the market, all right, and it'll give it to a borrower. This is a different diagram. This is of a bank, but it's quite similar to a bank, except it doesn't get deposits. It raises money. So it'll raise money from the market. It'll issue bonds. There'll be bonds on the name of Indiabulls Housing Finance. So a lot of banks, a lot of institutions, general public, you and me would buy bonds, and bonds would have a lower interest rate. They have given 2% here, but it's not 2%. Come on, which investor would buy a bond for 2%? It'll be generally it'll be about 8 to 9%, and they would lend out this the amount which they got from the public. They would lend out to uh, people who want loans. So in this case, it is Indiabulls Housing Finance. So they lend out housing finance loans to borrowers, and they'll basically get a higher interest rate, which is 13 to 14%. And basically, they get a spread, which is the difference between the the rate of interest at which they have raised money to the rate of interest at which they have lent the money. So it is the difference between both these rate of interests. Okay, moving back to the news. So it has to meet its payment obligation. So basically it has taken money from the public. So obviously it has to pay the public some interest, right? So in order to pay the public some interest, it needs money. However, this industry is in a downturn, because of which it is not able to meet its payment obligations, and it has to resort to raising 2200 crores by pledging a part of its real estate loans. So by pledging its loans, by pledging the future cash flows of the loans, they are raising 2200 crores. That's why I say Indiabulls Housing Finance is under stress, because it needs to raise money, and that's where Oaktree Capital comes in. So Oaktree Capital would buy non-convertible debentures. So basically, a debenture is like a bond, but it is non-convertible. You can't convert them into an equity. So what happens is, Oaktree Capital would buy debentures. Now the India now Indiabulls Housing Finance is under duress, under stress. So it will offer Oaktree a higher rate of return than Oaktree would normally get. Moreover, since the Indiabulls Housing Finance has already pledged about some of its real estate loans. That means if Indiabulls Housing Finance fails to meet its obligations, Oaktree Capital is well within its rights to take over the real estate loans it was pledged. Just so that you know, the real estate value that is guaranteed, the real estate that is guaranteed is valued close to 4,500 crore. Now you see what I mean by distressed. The market value is 4,500 crore, while they have raised only 2,200 crore. So this is what stress means. You buy uh, you buy something that is under stress. So because this was under stress, and because Indiabulls Housing Finance wanted to raise money and no one was willing to lend them money, they had to like put on sale or maybe pledge its 4,500 crore worth of property, worth of loans, property loans, at about 2,200 crore. So these exposures are to developers such as Wadhwa Group and Sheth developers. So Wadhwa Group and Sheth developers are very prominent real estate and commercial project developers in Mumbai. So, like I said, it's a housing finance company. It'll generally give money to people who want loans for housing, or it'll give money to developers that are building houses, and it'll get an interest, higher interest than the money which they'll get a higher interest, and they'll basically eat the difference between the interest they are paying to people they have taken money from, and the interest they are getting from developers such as Vado Group and State developers. So, just so that you know, Oaktree, this is not a new strategy for Oaktree. Oaktree did the same thing with another housing finance company called Diwan Housing Finance Company, which is bankrupt. It took wholesale loans worth 1,375 crores, and obviously, there's no prize in guessing that the value of these loans. I mean, the value of the loans would be much higher, in the sense Oaktree would have given them about 500 to 600 crores for loans worth of 1,375 crores, and that's what I mean by stress. Offering money to companies under duress that want to raise capital, and taking instruments as collateral that are worth higher than what they are quoted. So actually, Indiabulls Housing Finance is under duress because it has been downgraded by Moody's. So as you know, Moody's is a prominent rating agency. It has downgraded this Indiabulls Housing Finance from B2 to B3. Just so that you know how ratings look like. This is basically the three rating agencies: Fitch, Standard and Poor's, and Moody's. So this first Indiabulls Housing Finance had B2 grade, which is really bad, which is non-investment grade. So what I mean by non-investment grade means trash, it means junk, it means of no value. Okay, it downloaded from B2 to B3. From what horrible it already was, it made it worse. All right. So this is the condition of Indiabulls Housing Finance. So just for you, for everyone who need to understand about industry and what industry is doing at the moment. So when you're investing in a share, you need to realize what is the position of the industry and how companies in an industry are performing. And this is an example right in front of you. Indiabulls Housing Finance, which has about loan book of 1 trillion rupees, it is rated as B3, non-investment grade, junk. Alright, that's why Indiabulls Housing Finance is under stress. It is under so much stress that it had to fire about 2,000 employees due to the disruption caused by coronavirus outbreak. Its senior management had to take 35% pay cut. It's the company chairman Samir Gehlot decided to forego his entire salary for the fiscal year, while the vice chairman took a 75% cut. So when the senior management is taking cut, when there are layoffs in the company, it is a very very bad sign. And another sign of investment rating agencies such as Moody, which is world famous company. All right, it downgrading it to already terrible B3. And it pledging its estates worth 4,500 crores to just raise 2,200 crores to a global stressed asset investor. Three bad signs I have given you right here, right now. As you can see, the loan book is stands at about 1.2 trillion dollars, and the average cost of borrowing is 8.8%. So they have borrowed from the depositors, from the lenders at 8.8%, and God knows at what percentage they have given it out to lenders or housing developers. Another thing you need to know, India Bulls is with talks with other investors to refinance loans worth 7,000 crore. The second, and it is looking for a second stage of raising funds via preferential issues. So it still needs more money, it is still under trouble. Just so that you know why is it raising money, number one, it's trying to raise its war chest because of coronavirus. It doesn't know what the industry is about to see and how this situation is going to be played out in the future. And second thing, which I think is the exact reason why they're doing it, RBI rule, there has been an RBI rule. It mandates that non-banking financial firms and housing finance companies should not have net non-performing assets more than 6% as of 31st March 2019, and the funds that they raise would solely be used to extinguish existing liabilities. So they are, I'm just saying Indiabulls Housing Finance doesn't have higher than 6% non-performing assets. It's doing well, but it feels as if this disruption in the industry, in housing finance industry, it NPS can rise to 6%, and it would need a war chest to pay its existing or extinguish its existing liabilities. So, guys, this is pretty much it about Indiabulls Housing Finance and how it has gotten a life jacket from Oaktree Capital. Recently, Morgan Stanley also bought some shares in Indiabulls Housing Finance, which raised the share about 30%. I'm not telling you to buy this share, but I want you to wait and watch the key developments that will come up in these shares. It can be a good show for you. Trust me, Indiabulls Housing Finance would never disappoint you. Alright, guys, so this is my take on Indiabulls Housing Finance, and you heard it first from Karan. Have a nice day.